WWE had originally booked a tag title unification match between the Usos and RK Bro for WrestleMania Backlash, but it was changed to a 6-man tag team match when Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre were added to the equation. The only title match last night featured Charlotte Flair defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Ronda Rousey. The only way for either to win was to make the other competitors say the words, "I quit." The rest of the card was filled with rematches from WrestleMania 38, so there wasn't a lot of new ground covered during last night's show. Let's take a look at everything that happened at WrestleMania Backlash. Welcome, everybody, to Ridiculously Raw, the most must-see show on YouTube and streaming.com. Today, I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined by the phenom Michael Bullock, fresh off another one of our legendary Raw chats, as always. I'm afraid I have some bad news. Unfortunately, good old MF Michael Fletcher will not be joining us this evening. He had to bow out at the last minute due to work commitments beyond his control. We'll see him tomorrow night, and I'll explain the situation there. But for right now, we're going to review. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get into WrestleMania Backlash, which took place last night from the Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence, Rhode Island, streaming exclusively on Peacock here in the United States, of course, the WWE Network elsewhere, and traditional pay-per-view. Myself, Michael Bullock, and MF were at the show last night, and we started it off with Seth freaking Rollins versus the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Winner of the match in 20 minutes and 45 seconds, pulling the tights and getting the win. It was Cody Rhodes. You could easily make an argument for fight of the night here. A good 4.25, teetering on 4.5 stars. And like their WrestleMania match, they picked up the pace as they went and got the crowd hyped for every big moment. They paced themselves well so they could sell when they needed to without feeling like the momentum of the match was dying. Rollins managed to get his foot on the rope to avoid a pin after taking the crossroads, and he failed to score the pedigree, leading to Rhodes getting the pin by using a handful of tights when he rolled them up, which Seth had just tried to do to him. And some people might complain about the finish, but this was an outstanding match that will likely be remembered as the fight of the night. And, I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, the disaster kick Rhodes hit looked really good, but Rollins catching him for a buckle bomb when he tried to hit it a second time looked even better. Rhodes' springboard cutter was awesome. Rollins is so good at being exactly where he needs to be when his opponents hit big spots like that. 4.25, teetering on 4.5, but I think it's more 4.25 because of the finish. But what an incredible match and a great way to jump off WrestleMania Backlash last night. So not much more to say. Phenom, Michael Bullock, come on in. Cody Rhodes defeating Seth Rollins for a second time. 20 minutes and 45 seconds to jump off Backlash, as we saw at the Dark last night.
Yeah, this was definitely a great way to start off WrestleMania Backlash last night with a match like this. I mean, yeah, 4.25 to 4.25 stars. I can't give it the 4.5, obviously because of the finish, but yeah, despite that, it was just a great match, a great way to start it off. And I mean, what can you say about these two? These two definitely have chemistry, and they definitely showed it off. And I think this feud is definitely far from over. So so we'll wait and see on that. So there's really nothing more to say. So let's move on, Florio,
to the next match, which Bullock will start off on, as it was another WrestleMania return match. And he is now known as the Nigerian Giant, Omos, with MVP in his corner, squaring off against the almighty Bobby Lashley. Omos wins the match, 8 minutes and 50 seconds. Michael Bullock, Omos may have won the match, but he had plenty of help. MVP with that cane to Lashley's throat, the difference maker.
Yeah, this was he was definitely the difference maker here. Yeah, I can only give it 2 stars here. I mean, you know what? I'll actually give it 1.5 to 2, just because of MVP interfering here. So, I mean, Omos getting the win back was no big surprise here. So yeah, it's obviously a signal that the feud must continue. So yeah, there's really nothing more to say. Flory, what's yours?
And that feud will continue in a big way, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I'm going to be a little more generous on this one. I'm actually going to give it 2.5 stars for the effort. This was a better and more competitive match than their encounter at WrestleMania, but it still left something to be desired. If they end up having a third match, it could probably be the best of the trilogy. So that's really all there is to say on that. So I'm going to give it 2.5 stars there. Then it was the next rematch, which was the Rated R Superstar Edge squaring off against the phenomenal AJ Styles. Damian Priest barred from ringside. Winner of the match in 16 minutes and 25 seconds. The Rated R Superstar Edge. He had plenty of help. Damian Priest causes a distraction, but Finn Balor jumped him. And then Finn Balor and Damian Priest fought throughout the arena, as I pointed out to MF and Bullock as we were there. And then from there, a masked assailant bungees AJ Styles on the top rope. And then after the match was over, we revealed who that assailant was. It was Rhea Ripley, a black-haired Rhea Ripley. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. This was another great match between these two. It might have even surpassed their Mania encounter. Adding Ripley to the Judgment Day is going to lead to some interesting storyline possibilities. And let's hope WWE has something good planned for her. The dropkick Styles hit between the bottom and middle ropes to the outside was nasty. He shot himself at Edge like a bullet. You can always tell when the Phenomenal One really cares about a feud because he pulls out moves he barely uses anymore. And the way Styles sold his left arm injury throughout the bout was great. Whenever he was forced to use it, he made sure to do something to indicate he was in pain. So yeah, I was going to give it 3.5 to 3 3/4, but I'm going to drop it down to 3.5 because of another clunky finish, because of Rhea Ripley as the masked assailant, bungeeing AJ for the win, and Priest still getting involved despite the ban stipulation. Yeah, but a great match though. 3.5 stars, no doubt about it. So, Michael Bullock, if you thought the Judgment Day was already dangerous with Edge and Damian Priest, think of all the possibilities now that Rhea Ripley, with her new black hairdo, adds to that faction.
And I believe somebody got this one right here when you called. When somebody called that Rhea Ripley was going to be joining the group. Who would that be?
I believe I had that one, Mr. Bullock, because I read a dirt sheet. I read a dirt sheet saying that Rhea Ripley's name was being thrown around, and sure enough, we got the payoff.
Yeah, we did. We did indeed get the payoff here. So 3.5 stars. Like you said, I would have given it 3 3/4 as well, but Ripley interfering basically took some of that away. But it was another good match here. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this with Rhea Ripley now joining the Judgment Day. And if you thought the Judgment Day was already dangerous with just Edge and Damian Priest, now you add Rhea Ripley to the mix. Oh boy. So we'll wait and see how it all goes. And so 3.5 stars, and Florio, as I give it to you, you will acknowledge the Judgment Day.
Angry Edge is always the best Edge, isn't that right?
Oh, it's always awesome, and I'm telling you, folks, and Florio, you can back me up. You do not want to get on Edge's bad side because he will unleash that angry Edge.
Doesn't matter if you're a man or even a woman, and that's a spoiler for later. Our only championship match on the night, the SmackDown Women's Championship on the line in an I Quit match. The champion, Charlotte Flair, defending in a WrestleMania rematch against Rowdy Ronda Rousey. Winner of the match in 16 minutes and 35 seconds. And new SmackDown Women's Champion, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, winning it with her arm bar, but the arm was entrenched inside of a steel chair. Charlotte said no, but Ronda was like, I was hoping you'd say that, biatch. And then bada boom, she really twerks on it, and then that did it. Charlotte uttered the words, I quit. We all heard it. Crowd explodes. And unfortunately, MF is here. So Bullock, I'm going to set it up for you anyway. New champion, you know what that means. History was made at the Dunk last night. The Rowdy one can now say she has won both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships, along with all those other great women, which I'll list in just a moment.
Yeah, I mean, now you can add Ronda Rousey to the mix of women that have won both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. So yeah, this was a good match here, and I'll give it about I'll give it about another 3.5 here. I mean, this was awesome, and yeah, I mean, you knew that that Ronda was going to win this one, and obviously with her being hurt, with Charlotte being hurt now, and obviously it looks like she's going to be out of action. Well, I think this was a way to write Charlotte Flair, because she did ask for time off, and obviously this was the perfect way to write her off. So now we'll have to wait and see who's going to be the first to step up to the Rowdy one. So 3.5 stars. Flory, what's yours?
With all due respect, Bullock, I think you underscored it a bit. I thought it was 3 3/4 to 4 for me. I think it was definitely better than the Mania match, no question about it. And yeah, we had a lot of fun with. I mean, Yumi and MF, we had a lot of fun with this match last night. But then again, we had fun with almost everything last night. I mean, this was a competitive, hard-fought battle that far exceeded the build-up. Both women brought everything they had and left it all in the ring. One of the kendo sticks they used to hit each other broke into several pieces. They were really swinging for the fences. The powerbomb Rousey took into the barricade looked rough. The Queen was either selling really well or she was legitimately crying from the pain she was in at one point. And the crowd, even though I think a lot of them had a little too much, if you know what I mean, the crowd kept chanting, "We want tables." But Rousey and Charlotte never gave them what they wanted. Those are two true professionals right there. And yes, Bullock, you're absolutely right. There was a dirt sheet that came out earlier today about Charlotte Flair, because they did a brief little thing. They had Kayla Braxton come up on the screen and saying that and addressing everybody, you know, in the Dunk and obviously watching on Peacock and wherever, saying that Rousey had suffered an injury, or I should say Charlotte suffered an injury. And the dirt sheet came out today saying that it was indeed used as a way to write off Charlotte Flair from television. And they're saying that a broken arm typically takes about 6 to 8 weeks to heal. And that might be how long we're going to be without her. And of course, there's another reason behind this. It's also being rumored that during this sabbatical, that she and Andrade El Idolo, as he's known in AEW, could be tying the knot and getting married. So I think that's probably one of the, if that's not the main reason, I don't know what is. So 6 to 8 weeks. I think she should be back in plenty of time for the SummerSlam. No question about that. So she's definitely out of Hell in a Cell, and Money in the Bank might be a stretch at this point, but or maybe it won't be. I don't know. But she's definitely out of Hell in a Cell. So that's all I know. So 3 3/4 to 4 stars. Excellent match. And then from there, we had Happy Corbin squaring off against Madcap Moss. Madcap Moss wins the match, 9 minutes and 50 seconds. This wasn't really a WrestleMania rematch, but I'll tell you what. I mean, this bout exceeded our expectations in almost every way. It was more competitive, including more exciting offense. And both men showed off stuff we don't usually see from them. The ending was kind of sudden. Moss hit a sunset flip out of nowhere to get the clean win, and he celebrated in the aisle while Corbin looked as sad as he was when he was broke. So I'll give this about maybe 3 and a quarter. And the kick Corbin hit to the leg almost looked like a low blow at first. MMA fighters often end up kicking their opponent in the groin on accident, sometimes on purpose, when trying to kick their inner thigh so it can happen easily. And the sunset flip Moss used to win was about as textbook as it gets. He has definitely improved a bit in the ring over the last year. So sleeper fight of the night for me. I'm going to give it 3 stars, maybe 3 and a quarter for the effort. So not much more to say. Michael Bullock, Madcap Moss, another big win for him coming off his Andre the Giant Battle Royal win last month.
Yeah, definitely another big win for him. Since winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So definitely, I mean, a match that did surprise me. I mean, I really wasn't expecting much out of this, but it was much better than what I expected. So I'll give it a 3-star rating. So yeah, there's nothing more to say except I think it's main event time, Florio.
It is main event time, Bullock. 6-man tag team matchup. Drew McIntyre and the Raw Tag Team Champions, RK Bro, Randy Orton, and Riddle, squaring off against the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, and the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Usos, the Bloodline. Winners of the match in 22 minutes and 20 seconds. It was the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, with a spear on Riddle for the 1-2-3. Michael Bullock, the Bloodline keeps on rolling, and until somebody beats them, there's nobody can. There's no one. There's none of nobody. Not you, not me, not anybody. I dare you to find a faction that's more dominant than they are, because they are the hottest thing going in WWE right now. And until somebody beats them, we have no choice but to acknowledge them.
Yeah, and what was the time, Florio?
22 minutes and 20 seconds.
All right. I'll give it 4 stars. I mean, this was an unbelievable main event here. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was back and forth, chaos all around the ring. I mean, it looked like somehow RK Bro and Drew were gonna pull it out, but with the blind tag by Roman Reigns, hits the spear on Riddle and gets the win here. And I've said it before, Florio, and I'm going to say it again, and I don't give a damn what anybody tells me. Right now, the Bloodline is the most dominant faction in professional wrestling history. That's how far I'm willing to go. I mean, you tell me any other team that is better than them. I mean, with what Roman Reigns has done as world champion and what the Usos have done as tag team champions ever since they put this group together, they've just been unstoppable. And I just don't see any other team that can dethrone these 3. And they're going to remain on top as long as they want. And you will have no choice but to acknowledge them. So, nothing more to say. Florio, it's yours.
Yeah, right there with you. 4 to 4 and a quarter stars here. This was another example of an entertaining match that was far better than the story behind it. Everybody looked great in this one. Even without any titles on the line, this still felt like a bout that was worthy of main eventing the event. Roman trolling the crowd was as funny as it was predictable. Jay took out Orton on the apron with a super kick at one point, and the way the Viper sold it was hilarious. He just sort of collapsed to the apron and slowly fell off to the floor. And at one point, Reigns decked Riddle to knock him off the apron, and Pat McAfee laughed like a little kid. It was hilarious. So this was 4 to 4.25 stars. So overall, and this is the grading that we all agreed on, 8 to 8.5 out of 10 for this show. Absolutely. I mean, nothing remotely sucked. I mean, the worst fight of the night definitely was Bobby Lashley and Omos. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, that was the fight of the night. Main event, second best fight of the night. And I would round out the top 3 with the I Quit match. Charlotte and Ronda. And Edge and AJ go 4. And then Corbin and Moss 5. And then, like I said, Lashley and Omos, the worst fight of the night. And it flew by it went by real quick. I mean, it was a great night, and I'll tell you what, from a personal standpoint, this was a special one for me. It was my first ever pay-per-view, and I'm so grateful that I finally got a chance to go to a pay-per-view. I never had the chance before, but a lot of that was mainly because they hadn't done one here in 13 years. But I'm so damn glad I finally got to do it, and we can, all 3 of us can now say that we've done everything there is to do when it comes to going to WWE live events at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, or as it was known back in the day, the Providence Civic Center. We've done at least one house show. We've done at least one SmackDown taping. We've done at least one Raw taping. And now we've done at least one pay-per-view, and that includes me, even though this was Bullock's 3rd pay-per-view. But to be there with my 2 dearest friends, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So couldn't think of 2 better people to share that special moment for me with. So great night all around. And I don't know when they're coming back, but hopefully they'll be back again later this year. And we can make another night of it. So great job, WWE. Great job. We'll see you guys soon. Hopefully it'll be sometime by the end of this year. So 8.5 for me. And as a whole, this will be remembered as a show with some really solid wrestling. So the only downside was there was little in the way of storyline development for anyone involved. But other than that, great night. 8.5. Bullock take it home, and then we'll get into Monday Night Raw for tonight.
Yeah, 8 to 8.5. I mean, what a show it was. I mean, Providence does it once again. I mean, yeah, like you said, the worst fight of the night was Bobby Lashley and Omos. The fight of the night being Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. And also in the top 3 is obviously the main event and the SmackDown Women's title match. So yeah, there's really nothing more for me to add. 8 to 8.5. So let's move on to Monday Night Raw.
WrestleMania Backlash featured some great matches, but the only title that changed hands was over on SmackDown. So Raw, tonight's Raw, was mostly unaffected by last night's event. One major change we did see was Rhea Ripley joining Edge's new Judgment Day stable after interfering in his match against AJ Styles. Tonight's show dealt with the fallout from WrestleMania Backlash that began the build-up for Hell in a Cell, and it also featured a United States Heavyweight Championship match between Theory and Cody Rhodes. Let's take a look at what happened on tonight's Raw as we continue on here with Ridiculously Raw. Monday Night Raw live tonight from the Elite XL Center, formerly the Hartford Civic Center in Hartford, Connecticut, on the USA Network as always. And hey, speaking of championships, we ended up getting another championship match here tonight. As we started it off with the Raw Tag Team Champions, RK Bro, Randy Orton, and Riddle. They cut a promo interrupted by the Street Profits, and it led into the first match of the night. RK Bro versus the Street Profits for the Raw Tag Team Championship. Winners of the match in roughly an even 10 minutes, and still the Raw Tag Team Champions, Randy Orton and Riddle. And I'll tell you what, energetic contest that got the crowd in the right mindset for the rest of the show. Everybody seemed to enjoy the action in the ring. And Orton said he and Riddle still wanted to unify the tag titles during the promo. It seemed like they were looking past Ford and Dawkins, but the Profits did a good job getting the crowd on their side. When Orton hit Dawkins with European uppercuts in the corner, he made it look like he was hitting him as hard as possible. Looked real good. Montez Ford's From the Heavens frog splash is nuts. He gets more elevation than just about anyone else who has ever done it. And Orton's pre-match promo about going to SmackDown to challenge the Usos for the titles kind of telegraphed the outcome of the match. That speech would have been better if it happened after the match was over. But still, energetic bout, got the crowd in the right mindset, like I said, and everybody seemed to enjoy the action in the ring. So I'm going to give this a solid 3 to 3.25 stars. Another not as great a jump off as we had last night, but another very good jump off. And of course, the standout line during the promo, Randy Orton with Riddle saying "RK Bro 420," says, "We just smoked your ass." Whoa, ho, ho. And Randy Orton loving every moment of that. So with that, 3 to 3.25 stars. You can definitely make an argument for Fight of the Night honors here. So there isn't much more to say. Michael Bullock, the champions stay the champions, and who knows? Maybe we may get that unification match after all if they're going to be on SmackDown Friday.
Yeah, we'll definitely wait and see what happens with that, because it seems like they're not done with the Usos. So, 3.25. I agree with you. This was a great jump off to this. After that, that promo that that both of these teams did have. So, yeah. So now we gotta wait and see what happens Friday night. So, nothing more to say. Florio, it's yours.
All right, Bullock. Let's see what we have here. All right, and then we had, as they are now known as the Judgment Day, Edge, Damian Priest, and the newest member, Rhea Ripley. They cut a promo, and then it was interrupted by Liv Morgan, and Liv Morgan then went one-on-one with Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley wins the match 5 minutes and 40 seconds with a Texas Cloverleaf-like submission hold. Very devastating. Michael Bullock, I mean, great first promo by the Judgment Day. And then Rhea Ripley follows that up with a nice win over Liv Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it was a good promo by them. We finally got to hear with Rhea Ripley since joining them, and there was an interesting thing that we saw. That we heard Florio during that promo.
Yeah,
and that was Edge basically said he was the one responsible for breaking up the team of Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. He actually is taking credit for it. So, yeah, and then basically, Liv Morgan didn't stand a chance. Against Rhea Ripley, and I thought it looked like it was going to be a 3-on-1. But afterwards, we had Finn Balor and AJ Styles come out and prevent what I shudder to think what could have happened to Liv Morgan. So, yeah, nothing more to say. 1.5 to 2 for the effort. Florio, it's yours.
I'll be a little more generous. I'll give it about 2 to 2.25 for this. As nice as it would have been to get a less one-sided bout, hold on. It wasn't quite a squash match, but it wasn't far off. As nice as it would have been to get a less one-sided bout, this was the right way to book Rhea Ripley. So she looks like a force to be reckoned with. They will have more chances to fight in the future. So we'll probably see Morgan get some revenge at some point. I'm going to give it about 2 to 2.5 for this. Edge seemed to lean less into the supernatural stuff for the promo and came across as more of an angry and resentful heel instead. It's too early to tell if it's a permanent shift for his character, but it might be for the best. Rhea Ripley kicked Liv Morgan in the face at one point, and it looked like she almost took her head off. It was vicious. And Ripley should come up with a name for that submission hold. It doesn't seem like the announcers know what to call it. I call it a like a reverse modified Texas Cloverleaf. So that's all there is to say on that. 2 to 2.5 for that one. Then from there, we weren't done with Judgment Day yet because Damian Priest had a match with Finn Balor. Finn Balor won that match in roughly an even 6 minutes via disqualification. And I'll tell you what, like Bullock said, after the match was over, they Judgment Day went after Liv Morgan, and then Finn Balor and AJ Styles came out. They did the whole Bullet Club 2 Sweet bit, and Finn Balor gets speared by Edge for the disqualification. So this is obviously going to be an NA because of the DQ finish. It was probably for the best that WWE did this right after the Ripley versus Morgan match, and devoting one block of time to this group instead of 2 separate segments worked better. And as far as this match goes, they did have a much more competitive exchange than Ripley and Morgan. The offense felt more evenly distributed between the 2 competitors. In fact, it looked like Balor might win before Edge, hit the spear and caused the disqualification. So automatic NA for us, and that's really all there is to say on that. All right. VIP Lounge, Bobby Lashley. It was MVP and Omos in the VIP Lounge. Bobby Lashley interrupted, and all hell broke loose. Nothing really to speak of. But, we talked about it earlier. The feud must continue. Oh, yes, the feud will continue. And it will continue next Monday night on Raw at the legendary Norfolk Scope in Norfolk, Virginia, when Omos and Bobby Lashley will go one-on-one inside the confines of a 15-foot-high steel temper cage. Hope the cage in the ring will be reinforced for this one. That's all there is to say on that. So, all right. And then from there, Sonya Deville was getting ready for a match, and then Adam Pearce comes out and gives her all the news that we the fans have been waiting for quite some time.
Hold on. Let me do this. Let me do this the proper way. Sonya Deville, yeah, fired.
Yes, that is correct, Bullock. We all got what we wanted here tonight. Sonya Deville, her contract as a WWE official has officially been terminated, all because of her blatant abuse of power over the last several months. Finally came to a head tonight. She gets terminated as an official, but she is still, however, an in-ring competitor, a superstar, if you will. And Adam Pearce said, "You have a match, and I'm trying to tell you who your opponent is." And then Mike, and he said it was a quality opponent. Oh, it's a quality opponent, all right. The returning former 5-time overall women's champion between Raw and SmackDown. Oh my goddess, she is back. Alexa Bliss, 5 Feet of Fury, coming out to her old entrance theme, and even with the Lily doll. And because of that, Alexa Bliss, Sonya Deville one-on-one. Alexa Bliss wins the match in 40 seconds. Maybe the most, I think in Michael Bullock's opinion, it was the most delicious squash he ever saw. So, all right. It wasn't much of anything, but seeing Bliss get such a warm welcome back was nice. Deville was about to lose it at ringside after the loss. As great as it was to see the goddess again, we have to be fair when we rate this stuff. A two move match will never be satisfying, especially when it's established star and not somebody who's brand new. The welcome back chants for Bliss were generally nice to hear. The people have missed her. Deville's little freak out after the bout was good. She really looked like she had a meltdown. And it seems like WWE is going to have Bliss play something closer to the character she used to be. But having her carry the doll around is just going to remind people of the gimmicks she previously had. I think she needs to ditch that thing soon. But other than that, great to see the goddess version of Alexa Bliss back. And now business has indeed picked up in the Raw Women's division. Now that Alexa Bliss is back from her leave after getting married to Ryan Cabrera recently. So, but great to see her back. So that's all there is to say there. So, yeah, the match was a dud, but we're not going to give it a D for dud. We're going to give it a D for delicious squash, and maybe the most delicious squash we've ever seen. So, and Bullock, I know you couldn't be any more happier with the way things played out, with especially with Sonya getting served her walking papers as a WWE official here tonight. So there you go. All right, and then we had more nonsense. Ezekiel came down, and then Kevin Owens coming out as Ken Owens. Please. This whole Owens and Ezekiel thing is beyond the point to go away. And the Alpha Academy came out and they attacked Ezekiel, and it was a 3-on-1 beatdown. So, but anywho, then we get Veer Mahan in his latest Ham and Egger squash challenge, if you will. Frank Loman, the victim, Veer Mahan in 125, D for dud. So, all right. Then we had the United States Heavyweight Championship match, Theory versus Cody Rhodes. Winner of the match, via disqualification in 13 minutes and 10 seconds, it was Cody Rhodes. Of course, we all know the rule. If the only way a title changes hands is by a pinfall or a submission. Neither happened. It was a disqualification. So Cody wins the match, but he does not win the United States Heavyweight Championship. Theory is still a champion. And it was all because of Seth freaking Rollins. Was this a setup for a Hell in a Cell match? If so, it was a solid angle. So as far as the match goes, the actual match was well worked and entertaining. The only thing working against it was that it felt like a gimme that it would end with interference from Rollins. And I like that Rollins just rushed the ring rather than coming out to his entrance music. So unfortunately, this is gonna have to be an NA. Even though this was the fight of the night, if I'm gonna be honest with you. If I had to give it a rating, I would have given it between 3.25 to 3.5 stars, because the match was fun. And the DQ ending was probably the only way this was ever going to end. But it still would have been nice if WWE had come up with something else. So there isn't much more to say here. Michael Bullock, even though it's an NA match, 13 minutes, 10 seconds, by default, this was the fight of the night. And Seth freaking Rollins getting involved, so you know what that means. The feud must continue. And your favorite laugh. Yep. You wasn't laughing tonight, but I know in your mind that's what you were thinking. But nonetheless, Bullock, Seth Rollins, he attacked Cody, so you know what this means. As we always say, the feud must continue, and I think we might get it inside Hell in a Cell. It's certainly worthy of it.
I think so too. I mean, especially after this. I mean, yes, this was definitely an NA, but I would give it about maybe 3.25, 3.5, if I were to rate it. But yeah, Seth attacking Cody obviously means the feud must continue, and I see it going down at Hell in a Cell inside that structure. So nothing more to say. Let's move on, Florio.
Oh boy, Chicago gonna like that. All right. Women's Tag Team Champions Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Nikki ASH and Doudrop in a non-title match. Sasha and Naomi win it 4 minutes, 25 seconds. Obviously not much to speak of here. Short and predictable. but at least Nikki and Doudrop were back on TV, so that's something. However, their team already appears to be having issues. Doudrop yelled at Nikki after the match was over, and that's all there is to say on that. Then we had Mustafa Ali squaring off against Ciampa with The Miz as the special guest referee. Winner of the match, 3 minutes and 55 seconds. It was Ciampa. Miz with a fast count. With enough time and a real ref, Ciampa and Ali could give us a match of the year candidate without even trying. This match, however, felt like a stepping stone to something else, so it was not anything special. 1.5 stars, and Ciampa seems so watered down compared to how he was portrayed in NXT. He's not even Ali's main rival in this match. Let's hope WWE has something in mind for him and is just waiting for the right time to pull the trigger on a push. Crowd clearly loves Ali, but having him get screwed over 2 weeks in a row is not going to generate as much sympathy as it should. The company keeping a babyface down only works when it's a fake storyline, not when it reflects what actually happened to the wrestler. It might work eventually, but it's not clicking yet. 1.5 stars for this. And then the main event of the evening, it was a championship contenders match with Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair squaring off against Asuka. It ends in a no contest, 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Becky Lynch interferes. If you were keeping an eye on the time, then you had to know that this wasn't going to be much of a match. I assume it means they're going to set up a triple threat match for the Raw Women's Championship, which looks great on paper. And WWE did not give this much time, but that might have actually been for the best. If we had gotten a long, entertaining performance before the DQ, it would have made people even angrier. Keeping Lynch in the hunt for the title is smart, but WWE should not overlook Asuka. A program between her and the EST would produce some awesome matches. And that's really all there is to say on that. So this is definitely an NA here. Get to the overall review here. Not everything we saw this week was good, but WWE packed significantly more wrestling onto this show than what we saw last week. So that's an improvement most fans will appreciate. And honestly, I don't know how to rate it. I mean, but what we do know is it was definitely a back to reality show. There is no doubt about that. Probably give this about maybe 5.5, maybe, because there was some. I mean, we had like 2, maybe 3 good matches. I mean, Cody Rhodes, in theory, for the U.S. title was the fight of the night. The other title match was the other big fight of the night, the tag team title match, and we had some other good things. I mean, the Judgment Day established, and they definitely got a lot of time tonight. And, you know, and then we had the usual filler and cutouts and squashes and all this other nonsense. So I'm going to give it about 5.5. It was a middle of the road, back to reality show after an unbelievable pay-per-view last night. So not much more to say. Michael Bullock, a quick overall thought on this Raw, on this back to reality Raw, and then we'll quickly get into the Bruins beat in the Celtics chat.
Yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. I mean, it was a back to reality edition of Raw. I mean, you did have some good matches, but all the other stuff was pretty much left to be desired. So, yeah, so let's get to the Bruins beat.
Yeah, of course, yesterday was game number 4 of the first round series in the Eastern Conference with the Carolina Hurricanes and Michael Bullock's Boston Bruins from the TD Garden in Boston. The Boston Bruins evening the best of 7 series. They fell behind 2-0 after losing the first 2 games in Carolina, losing them by the count of by a combined 10-3 count. And now the Boston Bruins in the last 2 games have outscored Carolina 9-3 because Boston won game 4 yesterday by a count of 5-2. The stars of the game, the number 3 star was Jake DeBrusk, a goal and an assist. Number 2 star was Patrice Bergeron, a goal and 2 assists. And the star of the game, the number 1 star of the game, Brad Marchand, 2 goals and 3 assists for the Boston Bruins. Brett Pesce scored for Carolina, made it 1-0 at 14:06 of the first. And then at 16:09, 2:03 later, Patrice Bergeron, his third. Pesce was assisted by Max Domi and Jordan Staal. Patrice Bergeron for Brad Marchand and David Pastrnak tied it at 1. Carolina went ahead 2-1. 33 seconds into the second, Jordan Staal from Nino Niederreiter and Tony DeAngelo. And then at 18:44, Jake DeBrusk on the power play from Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand tied it at 2. And then 43 seconds into the third period, Brad Marchand on the power play from Jake DeBrusk and Charlie Coyle, 3-2 Boston. And then David Pastrnak, 5:41, his second from Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand, 4-2 Boston. And then at 19:25, Brad Marchand from Charlie Coyle and Brandon Carlo, 5-2. The Boston Bruins defeat the Carolina Hurricanes, evening this best-of-7 series at 2 games apiece as we head into the pivotal Game 5, which will, I believe, be tomorrow night from Raleigh as the series shifts back to Raleigh. So that's pretty much all there is to say there. Hold on one second here. And the shots on goal, 28-26 in favor of Boston, 37-29, the hits in favor of Boston. Faceoffs won, Carolina won 35-30. Carolina was 0 for 5 on the power play. The Bruins were 2 out of 9. No shorthanded goals, and those are pretty much the important stats. So, Michael Bullock, how it was down 2-0 heading into Boston, heading to Boston for games 3 and 4, but the Boston Bruins feasting on that TD Garden home cooking. It's now a 2-2 series, pivotal Game 5. This is the game. This is the game where definitely something has to give.
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 games, the Bruins really struggled in getting outscored 10-3, but it's like as soon as they got back home, that's when things started clicking, and now we got ourselves a best-of-3, and let's not forget another thing, Florio. They did this without Charlie McAvoy because he was out because he was in COVID protocols, so that's what makes this even more impressive too. So and that line with Marchand, Bergeron, and David Pastrnak really stepped up big time, and Jeremy Swayman even came up big with some big time saves. So nice win for the Bruins, evening up this best-of-7 series. So now it's back to Carolina for a pivotal Game 5. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see which team goes back to the TD Garden up 3-2. So nice win for the Bruins here. So now let's move on to the Celtics chat.
Yep. And by the way, the next Bruins beat will be tomorrow night. I'll have more on that in a moment. And now the Celtics chat tonight, Game 4, the Boston Celtics against the Milwaukee Bucks from the Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. The Bucks were up 2-1 after a controversial 103-101 win with questionable officiating on Saturday. More questionable officiating tonight. However, the Boston Celtics overcame it. Al Horford has played in more than 24 postseason series in a 15-year NBA career, but rarely has outwardly shown much emotion during all those appearances. That all changed tonight. The 35-year-old Horford had just capped a 10-0 run by driving down the baseline, hitting a game-tying dunk, and drawing a foul on 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. Horford celebrated by letting out a scream and pumping out his fists. Horford's big moment was the signature play in a fourth-quarter comeback that enabled the Boston Celtics to beat the Milwaukee Bucks 116-108 to even their Eastern Conference semifinal series at 2 games apiece. The teams have alternated victories in this best-of-7 series, which continues with a pivotal Game 5 of their own at TD Garden in Boston as it goes back to Boston Wednesday night. Boston's tied the series mainly because of Horford and Jason Tatum, who also had 30 points. Horford had 16 points and Tatum 12 in the fourth quarter alone to help the Celtics outscore the defending NBA champions 43-28. Wow. Most impressive. To the box score for the victorious Celtics, of course, it was Al Horford. 30 points, 8 rebounds. Jason Tatum, double-double, 30 points, 13 rebounds, had 5 assists. Brown and Marcus Smart, each with 18. Smart, 18 points, 8 assists for him, 2 blocks. And White off the bench, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And for the Bucks in a losing effort, another double-double for Giannis Antetokounmpo, 34 points, 18 rebounds, 5 assists. Let's see. Brook Lopez, 17 points, 7 rebounds. Drew Holiday with a nice stat line, 16 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. Pat Connaughton, another solid performance off the bench for him, 11 points, 7 rebounds. Bobby Portis, 4.6 rebounds for him. And to the defining numbers here, Boston shooting 50% from the field. Milwaukee shot 41.5%. 3-point shooting, both teams not at their best. Boston was 14 of 37, though, 37.8%. Milwaukee, 9 of 27, 33.3%. Free throw shooting was Boston, 18 out of 20 for 90%. Milwaukee, 21 of 27 for 77.8%. The rebounding edge, 13-4 in the offensive category for Milwaukee. And Milwaukee also won the defensive battle, 35-34. So the overall rebounding edge to Milwaukee, 48-38. Boston won the assist battle, 25-18. Milwaukee won the steals battle, 6-2. Boston won the block battle, 4-3. Milwaukee committed 8 turnovers. Boston committed 11. But Boston outscored Milwaukee 17-11 in points off turnovers. Fast break points, 16-13 in favor of the Celtics. And the points in the paint, Milwaukee did outscore Boston 52-48. Milwaukee committed 17 fouls, Boston 25. Each team committed 1 technical foul. Boston's biggest lead was 10. Milwaukee's biggest lead was 11. But it didn't matter. The Boston Celtics even the series, 2 games apiece, 116-108. Michael Bullock, if there was ever a game that the Boston Celtics needed to win, this was that game. And somehow, some way, in a very tough place to win, and with just as much questionable officiating as we saw on Saturday, somehow, some way, your Celtics found a way to get it done. Wow.
Yeah, they definitely found a way to get it done, and it wasn't just with Jason Tatum, but like you said, it was also 35-year-old Al Horford with 30 points as well. And yeah, things didn't look good in the early part of the fourth quarter when they were trailing by double digits, but this team was mentally tough. They fought back, and now they've evened up the series as the series now shifts back to the TD Garden. And man, I mean, this Celtics team is really, I mean, they've really been mentally tough in this series. I mean, overcoming so much things. So yeah, and now here's another one that somebody's going to be going to Pfizer Forum up 3-2. That's why this makes this a pivotal game number 5 on Wednesday night. So nothing more to say, Florio. Let's put a bow on this.
Yes, indeed. And what a night it was here tonight, this special edition of Ridiculously Raw. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. Now, tomorrow night, all right. So we're not going to do a Tony Steak tonight because we had a lot to cover tonight. So here's what we're going to do. Unfortunately, MF not here, so we will not have the Ranger Roundup here tonight. That's been pushed back to tomorrow, sometime tomorrow night. Time to be determined. We'll let you know when we have it. I haven't gotten a word of it yet, but we'll see. We will have the belated Rangers Roundup from tonight. And we will also have the Bruins beat as well, because tomorrow night will be that pivotal Game 5 with the Boston Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes. Wednesday night, it will be Wednesday Night Madness. We will review NXT 2.0 and AEW Dynamite as always. We will, and time permitting, we will have the Ranger Roundup and the Celtics chat. Game 5 for the New York Rangers against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Celtics with the pivotal Game 5 against the Milwaukee Bucks. Thursday night, TXN Sports World, another big show. Of course, it will be our annual NFL schedule release special, because the NFL schedule will be released on Thursday night, and we are going to have we'll have our big show like we've always done for the last 10, 11 years. So we'll get into that on Thursday. Friday, we have the Cerebral Smack Talk, MF. We'll have that. And you know how we'll do that. AEW Rampage, another early start time, and then Friday Night SmackDown, and take it from there. And we'll go from there. And if there's any Celtics chats, Bruins beats, or Ranger roundups, we'll definitely get into that as well. So keep your eyes peeled for the future content. So that's it. So until sometime tomorrow night for the Ranger roundup and the Bruins beat, Anthony Florio here on behalf of all of us here at Talking Wrestling TXN and TXN Sports World. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, the Phenom Michael Bullock, and the First Lady Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune Force style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Tuesday, and until tomorrow night for the Ranger Roundup and the Bruins beat. You've been watching Ridiculously Raw right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. And remember, my friends, no matter what anyone tells you, beyond anything else, wrestling is indeed actually real. For everybody who has been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long, and bye, everybody, bye.